You know someone like this, or you are someone like this. Someone who wants connection more than almost anything, who lies awake thinking about it, who can describe with painful clarity exactly the kind of love they're looking for, and who, the moment it actually arrives, the real thing, not the idea of it, does something that makes no sense at all. They leave, or they go cold, or they find some reason it won't work, or they just disappear. And the people left behind are standing there, trying to understand what they did wrong. They did nothing wrong. There's an explanation for this, a real one, not a self-help explanation, a nervous system explanation. And by the end of this, you'll understand something that most people spend decades trying to make sense of, including the person doing it. Chapter 1, What This Is Not. Before we go any further, let me tell you what this is not. It's not that they don't want love. They want it more than most people you've ever met. That's the part nobody tells you. It's not that they're selfish. They're often the most empathetic people in the room, the ones who pick up on a shift in the air before anyone has said a word. It's not that they haven't met the right person. The pattern doesn't change with different people, different cities, different stages of life. The people change, the pattern stays. And it's not a choice. It's a nervous system doing the only thing it was ever taught to do when love got close. Treat it as a threat. Research published in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience found something that changes how you see all of this. People with this pattern show heightened amygdala activation, the brain's fear center, even during positive relational moments. Not just when things go wrong, when things go right. Their alarm system has learned to go off at warmth. Not because warmth is dangerous, because at some point it was. They're not running away from you. They're running from what happened the last time love felt this real, and their body hasn't realized the danger is over. Chapter 2, Ria. I want to tell you about a woman named Ria. She's 31, thoughtful, observant, the kind of person who remembers the small things other people don't. She's been seeing someone for 3 months. He's consistent, kind, he shows up. He's exactly the thing she said she wanted, and something is wrong. She can't name it. It arrived slowly, like a temperature change, and by the time she noticed, it had already been there for weeks. He texts to say he's thinking about her. She reads it, puts her phone down, and feels not nothing, something worse than nothing, something that feels like the walls of the room getting slightly smaller. She starts noticing things, the way he laughs, the way he says her name. Things that were completely fine last week are now somehow grating. She cancels plans. She takes longer to reply. She creates distance she doesn't know she's creating. He notices. He asks if she's okay. And that question, that moment of his care actually reaching toward her, makes it worse. She doesn't want to leave. She has no reason to leave. But every part of her nervous system is telling her to run from the safest thing that has happened to her in years. She can't explain it to him. She can't explain it to herself. Not yet. But the pulling away has already started. This isn't a story about someone who can't love. This is a story about what love does to a nervous system that learned, very early, that love and loss arrive together. Chapter 3, Where It Started. It didn't start with Ria. And it didn't start with you. It started before you had any language for what was happening. This pattern doesn't usually come from a single catastrophic moment. It comes from something more ordinary and more damaging. Inconsistency. A parent who was warm sometimes and cold others, without explanation, who was there and then not there, in ways that made no sense to a child still learning what safety was supposed to feel like. Or a first love that ended without warning. One day present, the next gone. No explanation, no transition, nothing that made any sense. Or a home where the same person who was the source of love was also the source of pain. Where being close wasn't safe, but staying distant was lonely. Where there was no good option, only the less bad one. A child's nervous system isn't built to process this philosophically. It can't think. This person has their own wounds. It can only think. Closeness leads to something unpredictable, and unpredictable is dangerous. So the nervous system does what nervous systems do. It learns. It learns to stop reaching before the reaching costs anything. It learns to keep a distance that feels from the inside like control and feels from the outside like coldness. A 2025 study in the journal Attachment and Human Development found that avoidant individuals show expressive suppression as a consistent pattern. They withhold emotional cues not to deceive, but to protect. The pulling away is the nervous system reducing exposure before the loss can arrive. It's not cruelty. It's armor. The armor worked once. It kept them from the worst of it. It doesn't know the war is over. But here's what makes this genuinely heartbreaking. The more someone matters, the louder the alarm. The deeper the love, the faster the retreat. The people who trigger the most connection trigger the most fear at the same time, in the same moment. Chapter 4, Inside the Paradox. Here's the thing that doesn't make sense from the outside. For most people, safety grows with intimacy. The longer you know someone, the more you can relax. For someone with this pattern, it works in reverse. The more real the connection, the higher the stakes. The higher the stakes, the louder the alarm. The louder the alarm, the more unbearable the closeness becomes. The alarm scales with the love. A date goes perfectly. Something real just happened. On the way home, there's no excitement. There's dread, because something real can be lost, and the nervous system has already started calculating what that would cost. There's a point in every relationship where the walls close in. Different for everyone, but it's always there. Past that point, something activates that has no name. The person can't explain it. Their partner can't see it. But it's there, and it's running everything. And then the flaw finding starts. Small irritations that were invisible last week become unbearable this week because an exit reason is safer than vulnerability. It's easier to say it wasn't right than to admit, I was terrified it was. A 2025 study from the Personality and Social Psychology Journal found something almost unbearable. Avoidant individuals inaccurately perceive their partner's positive emotions. They literally cannot decode love being offered to them. The signal arrives, I'm here, I'm safe, I'm staying, and the nervous system translates it as threat incoming. The love is arriving. They can't receive it. Not because they don't want to, because the receiving system doesn't trust what it's being given. And that's what almost nobody asks about. Not what this costs the people left behind, what it costs the person carrying it. Chapter 5, What They Carry. Most conversations about avoidant attachment focus on what it costs the partner. This chapter is about the other side. What the person carrying this pattern actually pays, because they are paying, and almost no one acknowledges it. First, they grieve every connection they ended. The leaving doesn't feel like relief. Or not only like relief, it feels like loss, a loss they caused, which makes it sit differently. There's no clean place to put that grief. You can't mourn a relationship you ended. There's no word for what they're left with. Second, they watch themselves do it. This is its own particular kind of pain. Often they can see the pattern from the outside. They know exactly what they're doing. They can feel themselves creating the distance, and they cannot stop. The knowing and the doing exist at the same time, and the gap between them is where a very specific kind of shame lives. Third, the story they carry is, something is wrong with me, not, my nervous system has a pattern, not, I learned this in a room that is no longer my room, just, I'm broken, and everyone else seems to know how to do this thing I can't figure out, no matter how much I want to. They want the thing they keep destroying. They're not confused about what they want. They're afraid of what wanting it costs them, and they've been paying that cost in private for years with no language for it. Research from 2025 shows that avoidant attachment is associated with significantly higher rates of depression over time. Not because these people feel less, but because the armor that protects them from loss also keeps them from the thing that would begin to heal the wound the armor was built to cover. The protection works, and the protection costs everything. Pause here for a moment. Because if any of that landed, the grief of the endings they caused, the watching themselves do it, the private story of being broken, that is not evidence of something unfixable. That is the most human possible response to a nervous system that never received the signal that the danger had passed. The question isn't how someone got here. The question is what changes when the system finally starts to understand this room is not that room. That's Chapter 6. Chapter 6, The Thing Almost Never Said. Here it is, the thing almost never said about people who do this. They are not doing it because love means nothing to them. They're doing it because love means everything. And they have learned in a very specific way that everything can be taken. The scale of the retreat is proportional to the scale of the feeling. They don't run from things that don't matter. They run from the ones that do, which means the harder they are to reach, the more you might actually mean to them. That doesn't make it easier to be on the other side of, but it changes what it means. So what actually changes this? Not a decision. The nervous system doesn't respond to decisions. Not logic. You can't convince the amygdala with a good argument. Not being told to just trust. What changes it is something slower, something that feels almost too simple to be the answer. Repeated evidence, over time, that safety is real and doesn't leave. The nervous system changes through accumulation, not insight. It needs a new record. Enough instances of closeness arriving and not being followed by loss that the threat model slowly, incompletely, hesitantly begins to update. That's not a breakthrough. That's not a decision. That's a nervous system receiving, for the first time, enough evidence to consider something it has never considered before, that this person might actually stay. The first step that is actually possible isn't trust. It's naming. Just quietly, just to yourself, this is the alarm. This is not the truth of this person. This is what closeness has always cost me. It may not cost me that here. Not believing it, necessarily. Just saying it. Just creating the smallest distance between the alarm and the action it wants to trigger. That distance is where something different becomes possible. One more thing before we close. Understanding why someone pushes love away doesn't mean you're obligated to keep offering it indefinitely. Compassion and limits are not opposites. You're allowed to protect your own nervous system too. Both things can be true at the same time. They're not cold. They're not broken. They're not incapable of love. They're someone whose nervous system learned very early that love and loss arrive together. And they've been trying to protect themselves from both by never fully letting either in. The armor worked. It kept them from the worst. It also kept them from the thing they wanted most. That's not a character flaw. That's the cost of surviving something that should not have had to be survived alone. They don't push you away because you're not enough. They push you away because you are. And that's exactly what frightens them. If this video named something you've been carrying, either side of it, leave one word in the comments. Just one. The feeling, the pattern, the person you thought of while watching. You don't need to explain it. The people reading the comments will understand exactly what you mean. I'll read every single one. And if this described someone in your life, someone you've been trying to understand and failing and blaming yourself for failing, share it with them. Or just let it explain something you haven't been able to say yourself. Subscribe, Not because this channel has the answers, but because next time we go into something connected to everything in this video. Why your body can't relax even when nothing is wrong. Why the nervous system stays ready for a danger that's no longer there. I'll see you in the next one.